Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Big announcements coming through last night that the Esports World Cup in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia will be hosting Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 later on this year in just a couple of months' time. 1 month after the World Championship in July, the Esports World Cup is going to happen in August. What does this mean for the CDL and also some of the players even outside of the CDL? $1.8 million on the line is tempting many to try and get involved. 16 teams will be there. 12 of them may be the Call of Duty League teams, although they may not. We simply do not have the information to say which players such as FormaL might look to get involved as well. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below with still big questions being raised. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate. Let's just dive straight in because as we full well know now, it's not just Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, it's also Warzone. So Warzone, we're pretty sure is happening in week 1 in like basically July time because the Esports World Cup is going on over 7 weeks. Just to clarify, okay, it's a World Cup. It isn't a World Cup in like, you know, the football sense, FIFA, right? When you have different countries, they're still playing for their teams, but nonetheless, teams all around the world and all sorts of different esports. And, you know, the plan is for Saudi Arabia to put this on every single year from now into the future. Here are the dates: 3rd of July to the 25th of August. I believe in week 7, that's when Modern Warfare 3 is going to happen. But let's talk about the Warzone stuff first of all, because that's happening in, I think, the first week. And immediately after this was confirmed, we saw this from Vikul. So Vikul, Shifty, and Hisoka, obviously excellent trio there on the Warzone side. They are going to be competing for Team Falcons, right? So they're the Saudi Arabian based and owned team. They have a Call of Duty team already in that region, so they do effectively field a challengers roster and have a very good one at that in that region. But nonetheless, this has raised questions on whether something similar could happen with other very notable players not in the Warzone side, because these guys are going to join Falcons effectively for this event and get paid good money to do so. So effectively Falcons, I guess, are trying to sign what is arguably the best, if not one of the best teams at the event, so they can try and win, you know, the home event, as it were. And you'd imagine this might be I think they might have done something similar in Apex, and maybe in the Call of Duty side, there's something similar that could happen as well. For players that either can't go or otherwise wouldn't be able to attend, could there be some sort of arrangement here? For example, could Team Falcons sign up the OpTic guys if some of the OpTic guys aren't going to go? Now, maybe OpTic don't want to get involved in that, but money talks at the end of the day, and maybe there could be some sort of loan arrangement there possible. So that is a big one to stay tuned for. But shortly afterwards, they confirmed Modern Warfare 3 is there as well. So this is a done deal now. It's been speculated for some time. When the Esports World Cup was confirmed quite a while ago now, we saw Counter-Strike, Dota, League of Legends, effectively all the esports games, Rocket League, Apex, all this stuff was happening. Now, in the Activision days, now it's kind of Microsoft, right, owning Activision Blizzard, but this was a thing a couple of years ago. Doug Martin talked about it, the Gamers 8 tournament in Riyadh that is now effectively evolved into the Esports World Cup. Doug talked about that was a thing. There were rumours that they wanted to host this big Call of Duty tournament out there. Doug, of course, was keen to get involved because big money on the line. But Activision said, you know what, no, we're not interested. We're not going to allow you guys to use our game in this tournament, and therefore it never happened. But over the last couple of years, things have changed somewhat. Of course, Microsoft now in charge, and, well, Modern Warfare 3 is going to be there. This is the format of the tournament. So the dates are going to be the 15th to the 18th of August, and it's a $1.8 million prize pool, which is very similar. I'm pretty sure Champs this year is 2 million. If it's not 2 million, it's very close to 2 million. The most the Champs has ever been, I think, was 4.6 million back in MW19. So, you know, the CDL's kind of run out of money over the last few years. But nonetheless, I don't know if there was some arrangement here where they said, look, you guys can host the event, just don't make the prize pool bigger than our actual World Championship, because that's going to be kind of embarrassing. The issue is, of course, for the teams, and it's going to make for a fascinating off-season, because this is effectively Champs v2. Now, the format isn't quite the same. It's not quite as good. Bit of single elimination cheese going on, but nonetheless, this is still a serious event, right? There's $2 million on the line, and the FaZe boys are almost certainly going to be there, as we'll see in a second. So you've got to take this seriously if you are any team or any player that might potentially want to attend. So what does that mean for what you do after Champs is over, when you would usually make a load of roster changes? I don't really know. We'll get into that. The prize pool breakdown is this: 600k for first, 320 for second, 160 for third and fourth, and that's how it's defined because there are no losers semi-finals. There is simply single elimination all the way through, and this is what we find. So there's a group stage, which is, as we might call GSL style. Effectively, it means double elimination within the group. So you get seeded into 4 groups of 4, win 2 before you lose 2, you get through, lose 2 before you win 2, you're out. 2 advance to the playoffs, then you go 8-team single elims. A bit disappointing that it's single elim. You know, if it was double elim would have been better, whatever. I'm guessing there's time frames and stuff here to consider. Single elim, best of 5, and the final will be a best of 7. So they're kind of adopting a fair bit of the CDL format. I will say there is a question here though in terms of, are they actually going to use CDL rules, right? Because technically, they could kind of do whatever, couldn't they? Like, could they not play kill confirmed or team deathmatch or whatever? Maybe, you know, a riot shield's going to be allowed. It's one of these interesting questions where probably they're just going to use the CDL rule set, but it's not necessarily mandated, is it? Like, if they wanted to use some sort of other rule set and play other game modes, it wouldn't necessarily be impossible to do, but intrigued to your thoughts on that in the comment section below. The big question then is, okay, who's invited to this event? There are 16 teams going, so who goes and who doesn't go? Now, the rotation initially said 4 CDL organizations will be at the event. This is because these 4 teams, FaZe, okay, this is Atlanta FaZe, this is Rocket, this is Toronto, this is Los Angeles Thieves. All of these 4 franchises are owned by teams that are getting invited. So FaZe Clan will be represented there, so therefore you would imagine that Atlanta FaZe will also be going. Minnesota Rocket owned by G2, who have been invited. Toronto owned by, well, Overactive Media, who also own KOI. They've been invited, and of course 100 Thieves are there, which is Los Angeles Thieves. So Ben says, is this based on sourced info or just assuming that orgs that are in the partners that have been invited are getting in, and the rotation say, yo, this is sourced info, these will be the 4 teams going. So therefore it means, okay, well if these 4 franchises go, what about the other 8 franchises? What do those players do? Because OpTic and these other teams haven't been invited as one of the partners, so can OpTic attend? How is this going to work? But then things got kind of interesting because there was more floating around here from Neil, who's the Chief Commercial Officer at Overactive Media, saying, look, let's go Toronto, see you there in Riyadh, so that seems to be a done deal. But the big debate was, would anybody else be going? Because initially the thought was, okay, there's going to be 4 invited teams, because this is the format for the other titles, I believe, as well. 4 teams get invited, and then 12 other teams qualify through some sort of online qualifier type format. Now in the CDL, that's going to be kind of strange. Like, let's say I'm OpTic and I've just won the World Championship in the CDL, and yet these 4 teams, including Rocker, who might not even have qualified to champs, are getting to go to Riyadh and play for $1.8 million. I'm thinking, you know, what's this all about? I've got to play some online qualifier to make it. Am I even going to get invited? I don't know. Then he edited and says, actually, sounds like it might be 12 invited teams and 4 teams through qualifiers. Now, this makes a bit more sense, right? So, like, if I was running this tournament, what I would do is say, okay, every single CDL team is invited to compete either as that team or as the organization they represent, right? Because technically, I suppose, FaZe, Atlanta FaZe, they could go and represent FaZe Clan. These guys could represent G2 or whatever. Now, you might have to figure out some weird contractual stuff because obviously the Atlanta FaZe boys, they're contracted to Atlanta Esports Ventures, not FaZe Clan. So, I don't know, maybe they'll turn up there and they'll just compete for their CDL franchise. But, you know, is that what an Esports World Cup want to happen? I don't really know the answer to these questions, and there are still so many questions out there, but this makes more sense, does it not? To invite the 12 franchises, even if they're representing something slightly different to their actual franchise, and then 4 teams qualify through some sort of in-region qualifier that I imagine is where, you know, Team Falcons are going to compete from, or whatever is going to be happening there. And as I say, maybe there's still a world where if OpTic aren't invited, those guys get loaned out, or they form some sort of super team. What if somebody is on vacation and can't play in this tournament or for whatever reason? Then they might have to find a substitute. It's so many questions, and as Parasite says, qualifying for the Esports World Cup will probably be a tournament seeded by challengers points. I'm assuming the CDL teams are auto-qualified, so 4 spots might be set for tournaments for the regions, right? I think even Parasite said that he might well run it back. Did he not tweet that here? Maybe, yeah, here he goes, yeah. We'll have to come back and qualify for the World Cup. Give you cats a taste of what it's like when I try. So this is what happens when there's $1.8 million on the line, and as Clayser says, how is this World Cup going to work? Have you got to qualify? Have you got to sign to a partner team? How's it going to work with the contracts? Can Filthy teams play? And the reality is, I don't have the answer to any of these questions. They haven't really made it especially clear right now. But obviously, we've got other guys such as Donny Temp looking at this and saying, yeah, get me there as well. So we'll have to see what happens. I guess one of my big questions is, what does this mean for Rostermania? Because some teams, let's say Rocker, who are invited, they might not make champs. In fact, the odds are probably against them to make it, certainly with Lamar stepping back as we've seen over the last couple of days. So let's say they don't make it. Presumably, they're going to make roster changes after the World Championship. But a few weeks after the World Championship, there's now a $1.8 million tournament you've got to go to. You might go and get smoked. Then what do? Do you make roster changes again? Like, after champs, what are teams going to do, right? Let's say you lose the World Championship. Let's say you're New York Subliners or you're Toronto or something. You place third or fourth or whatever. It's not good enough. You want to make a potential change. Do you make it then? Or do you say, you know what? Let's wait for the Esports World Cup, play that first, and then see how things go? I don't really know. But I think it's going to make for a fascinating off-season. There's just so much that's going to be happening here all of the time. And therefore, of course, other players are looking to get involved because we're seeing, I don't expect to see all of the 12 franchise teams as they are with their full rosters. Like, I feel like there will be a bit more to it. Other players will want to get involved, and it's possible they can most certainly get involved. Now, I don't really know if FormaL is going to be able to play in this, just because the timing of the Halo season, there are tournaments around the World Cup for Halo, and even during the month of August, I think there's a load of like online stuff that is important for the World Championship qualification. So realistically, I don't think FormaL can, well, maybe he can, but I don't know if he's really going to be able to take the time out to fly to Riyadh and play in this tournament, but he's certainly teasing it. Says like 16 teams, you say? Maybe I'll get involved in one of those that's going to qualify or whatever. TJ says let's team because it's not exactly guaranteed that his organization's going to get invited, or if he's even still there, right? Because, I mean, TJ's done well this season, but let's say Ravens bow out early and they blow up their entire roster, or even their organization gets sold somewhere else, who knows? Then what happens to Teach? Can he play? Is he going to get invited? It's absolute chaos, to be honest, and there are lots of questions that we don't have the answers to, but the prize pool is substantial. It will be the 7th largest tournament in CoD history. Only ever World Championships, of course, have eclipsed this number. Yeah, as I say, 2020 was the most, then 2022, 21. I think this year's going to be in this kind of ballpark as well. So yeah, 7th or 8th, effectively, largest prize pool in CoD history. And how well is it going to be run? I don't really know. It's the first time they're going to do this. Probably first of many, knowing what we've seen in other sports and esports and just general entertainment over the last several years. And maybe it doesn't have the best format, but it's still almost $2 million on the line. So could we see something like this, right? There's been talking points around, well, is it possible that if OpTic aren't invited, if, let's say, New York aren't invited, what does it mean? Could these guys put together a potential team? Because, you know, FaZe are probably going to do rather well at this year's World Championship. They're potentially going to win it, and they're probably going to stick together, I would say, as it stands. So what about this team, right? Could you go Pred, Scrap, HyDra, Shotzzy? Could you even go, you know, Dashy, Scrap, HyDra, Shotzzy? And as we can see here, we got the Falcons logo, because potentially they could be loaned out to Falcons for the tournament and then return to their own teams after the fact. But I don't really know if I expect to see this. I think more likely the teams actually will get to go, but like Clayster clearly doesn't know what's happening, and of course he's an actual CDL player, so you'd imagine that if Clay doesn't really know what's going on, then none of these other players really know what's going on either. But big questions for you guys in the comment section below. Thought this was kind of funny if in Boston Reach. Think it would be 5-23 without a purpose. We've been saving those search and destroy strats to turn up to ReeaL and absolutely dominate. But, you know, whether they're even invited, I guess, is a question, but presumably their social media team thinks they are going to be invited and they are going to go. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't have tweeted this. But, yeah, fascinating stuff. Obviously, there's lots to say on the fact that this is being held in the first place, what it means for the future of esports and, as I say, entertainment in that region, the pros and the cons of attending and supporting such a tournament. And the controversy on that side of things is certainly not going to go away, but, you know, neither is the money at the end of the day. And, well, esports is difficult to make profitable at the best of times, so it really is no surprise that all the organizations are trying to get out there if they can. But very much enjoyed to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.